Hello friends and welcome to the 10th episode of Sumilier Talkies. Today, to celebrate the 10 episodes, we have a special guest, so keep watching. Hello friends and welcome to the 10th episode of Sumilier Talkies, weekly wine videos that I started in response to the COVID lockdown and to get through this pandemic season. Little did I know that the lockdown would last this long and I'll end up reaching 10 episodes. It's been very challenging for all of us, and I hope that you have found newer ways to connect with your community, with your friends and family around the world. I surely have connected with many wine lovers around the globe, and I really want to thank you for all the brilliant wine questions that have poured in your viewership, and also thank you for subscribing to this YouTube channel. Today, we not only celebrate 10 episodes of Sumilier Talkies, but we also celebrate countries that through their mighty efforts have managed to contain COVID and be declared COVID-free. One of them being New Zealand. To talk to us more on New Zealand wines, we have a special guest who has joined us, Chris Stroud, Marketing Manager for New Zealand Wines in Europe, who has over 15 years of experience covering PR, marketing, communications, and event management. Is the perfect person to tell us about and talk us about New Zealand wines pre-COVID, post-COVID, and what lies ahead for the future. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for joining us on the 10th episode of Sumilier Talkies. Over to you.
Thank you, Sumi. Pleasure to be here. Hope everyone's keeping well. So sadly, overnight, we heard that there was a couple of cases in New Zealand having been about 24 days free, but hopefully they're very minor. They've identified them and they can carry on as before. New Zealand's completely back to normal. There's no social distancing. There's nothing like that. They can have groups. You may have seen over the weekend there was some sporting activities. So rugby was being played, big crowd. So from a New Zealand perspective, things are kind of back to normal.
Well, that's really positive to hear, but I think it's also a matter of containing it as well. And I think with the travel restrictions in place, they are going to be a little bit more stringent about who comes in and the quarantine efforts, right? Even though I know 2 cases have come through, but I think this morning they said they're going to be doing tests before they allow people to come into the country. I think that's another way of making it more stringent to ensure that there are no cases.
Yeah, and before they leave their quarantine, they have to be tested as well. So they're not allowed to leave quarantine. So these apparently guests had, I don't know the full details, but they had a dying relative and they were given special permission to come in and special permission to travel out of their quarantine. So yeah, but maybe they'll learn a lesson and they'll, just tighten those up.
Yep, I think it's just belting it all and keeping it safe and healthy. So coming to New Zealand wine industry, obviously the Southern Hemisphere was in the grip of harvest. It was a very crucial time where you need to mobilize resources, get people together, and there comes in COVID just crushing in, and overnight lot of measures had to be put up to carry on harvest as normal and to proceed with the winemaking. So could you throw us some light on how the industry has tackled with it and what kind of protocols had to be put in to get this started with the lockdown?
Yeah, well, New Zealand went into full lockdown, and I would say more severe lockdown than we've had in the UK. They were very strict to start with. Nothing was open, no cafes. I remember my CEO was crying out for flat white, whereas I could go down and get one from the takeaway coffee shop, even though we were in lockdown as well. So we went into lockdown, New Zealand went into lockdown 25th. And basically, there was very lucky that the government deemed that the New Zealand wine industry was an essential industry. An important export industry for New Zealand, and not just that, but the supply chain as well. So it meant that harvesting and winemaking could carry on, and also that shipments and exports could be made, so there could be transport across the country. So the whole process was allowed to carry on. That said, it was all done under very strict guidelines. There was obviously social distancing, which is tricky in vineyards and wineries, but people were put into, from what I understand, people were put into work teams. They had to travel to and from the site. They weren't, so if they were picking on a vineyard, they had to stay with those people, and so forth. So there was some strict guidelines put in place, but I think the New Zealand wine industry managed well, and people were kept in their individual bubbles, and so forth. So they're not allowed to mix and so forth. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good to hear that, you know, everybody was kind of following the protocols and were very keen to still carry on work. I mean, this was, as I said, a very crucial time for the harvest.
Yeah. There was so a lot of people have asked, because obviously we get a lot of foreign workers coming in, and so that was a big question about that. But most people, the vineyard workers, came in before the pandemic had hit, so they had been in the country a number of weeks, either backpacking or just traveling, or just came in a few weeks to acclimatize. Obviously, I believe a few went home when the pandemic hit to be with their families, but generally most people were able to carry on in difficult circumstances. But the really positive news is it's a really fantastic vintage.
Good to hear that.
I haven't heard we're due to get the final quantities through in a week or two, and a bit more of an update. So when we get those figures, I'll send those out. But absolutely, apparently the conditions have been wonderful, and everyone's really excited across the country.
And was there any loss of volumes in terms of picking because of the lower numbers of, you know, viticulturists and vineyard managers involved?
I haven't seen any figures yet. I just think maybe it took a bit longer to get grapes in. But yeah, I haven't actually seen the sort of the figures of actual grape tonnage. But as soon as that's due to be out in the next week or so. But I believe, yeah, it just took a little bit longer with the guidelines and a few more challenges. But people, you know, the industry really bought into it. They really respected it. Everything had to close. There's only the cellar doors. Cellar doors had to close. Non-essential winery operations had to close. It's literally just the harvest and making the wine were able to continue.
And what about sales within New Zealand of wines? How was that impacted?
Well, I think everything was shut. Obviously, the cellar doors were shut. Non-essential shops were shut. I think obviously supermarkets were probably open at that time, and so wines could be bought there. But obviously there was no on trade, no cellar doors. So yeah, I mean, similar to here, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. And in terms of the other areas of the winery, I guess everything had shut down, and did a lot of staff, say on the marketing and other technical admin teams, they all had to be furloughed probably, right? It was just very core operations that were being carried out during
Yeah, furlough is a funny word, isn't it? It's something that wasn't in our vocabulary a couple of months ago. But I do know that you know, people were working, just they were working remotely. But obviously, there's been some impacts on activities. So you know, maybe individual, it'd be about case by case from the individual wineries. As an industry body, what we try to do from a marketing perspective is we try to provide as much intelligence. I mean, I held a webinar with Richard Siddle discussing what wineries could do, how they could support their customers here, and likewise what their customers could do to support them. And we had similar market insights and updates from Canada, the US. They just did one recently, China, and just working at really helping more, looking at the research and insights and intelligence for wineries, how they can cope and go forward.
And how is the situation today? In the last 7 days, things have started opening up. It's regular social life, but how about in the wineries? What is the change now? Is it back to normal?
Yeah, so everything seems to be back to normal in New Zealand. Cellar doors are open. We're launching a domestic. Obviously, there's with the border restrictions. There's nothing much going on or people coming in. So it's a big push to encourage domestic tourism, people to visit the vines. Is something we're working on, to get people to go and visit their local cellar doors, or to go and visit, you know, other wine regions, and to, you know, get to know more about their own country's wines. So hopefully that'll be a positive move going forward. I think New Zealand's literally operating as normal. We've, in the middle of all of this, we were due to move our office,
in London.
And so yeah, they've now moved into the new office. I think they're due to move into the office about a week after the lockdown came. But yeah, but they're into the new office. People are, I think what it has done is just changed a lot of people's ways of working. People maybe not making essential travel. People are a bit more flexible about working from home some days. But generally, I think, you know, business as usual. We have viticultural and vinification competitions, young bit, and that's planning and going ahead. So I think generally things are slowly returning to normal in New Zealand. And I hope that stays the same after the news this morning.
Great to hear. But I'm sure in terms of your marketing efforts, you would have had to kind of just change the direction or find out alternatives of reaching out. I know that you have the new wine diaries that you started, webinar series. Talk us through that and how in the future you are planning to enrich your marketing channels through other ways.
Yeah, indeed. So the wine diaries came about in discussion with colleagues in you know, my colleagues in US and Canada, and you know, we sort of came up with this, let's try and do something joint together. And you know, it's a conversational piece with masters of wine, master sommeliers, and we have one from each market, and then we have a guest host from New Zealand who kind of helps the conversation along. And it's focusing on a different topic each week. So we first started off with Sauvignon Blanc, obviously is the powerhouse of New Zealand, and that was in the week that led up to Sauvignon Blanc Day. So it's last Wednesday of each month they take place, and following Sauvignon Blanc, we looked at Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and then the next week's one is looking at life post-COVID, and you know, what new regions, what new varieties, what's new, how can, you know, what's proved popular throughout the lockdown. Has there been the popularity of traditional and classic, you know, the most popular styles of wine in New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is kind of the most popular here in the UK, but it's those customers that are coming in, keeping them and taking them on a journey, and looking at other styles, whether they be aromatic, other reds, and exploring more of New Zealand wine.
And do you also, why I'm asking this question is a lot of the American wine producers are now looking at opening up virtual trips for consumers around the world. Is it something on your agenda, or perhaps you're looking at a supplementary guide to the face-to-face, which I'm sure you will return at some point of time? But are these online sessions, virtual trips, are they in the agenda, talks with winemakers? Is that something in the pipeline?
We've not looked at that ourselves. I know there's been a few of them. I guess the problem we've got here in the UK and New Zealand is currently the difference is 11 hours. So a live wine tour in New Zealand would be midnight there.
We can do recording. I mean, that's the beauty.
Yeah. I mean, what we are doing, we are creating content for journalists, for tourism and so forth, and you know, we're looking to do some online things. But I guess what we can do is sort of virtual tastings, and we're looking at that. We're doing one this week. It's in fact with Oregon Pinot Noir and New Zealand Pinot Noir. So that's quite exciting to collaborate through 67 Pall Mall. 67 Pall Mall have been doing a lot of activities and tastings, which is great, and a lot of New Zealand wineries have been able to get involved. I've noticed a number of sessions from a number of amazing wineries there, so that's really good. So there's been a lot of noise about New Zealand, how to do trade tastings again in the UK. So there's an online survey created by a group of PR companies, and we put our names to it in the UK, and it's really to get some feedback on how people would like to attend trade tastings, and how they see the feasibility of working in these trade tastings, and that's what we would, like to get people's feedback, and there'll be a big report, and then that will help us as we go forward to organising events. It's likely we won't be doing an event till early next year when we do our normal annual tasting.
Right. I think we're all learning by as time passes. I think none of us have a very concrete idea of what is expected or what is expected to be done. How will tomorrow be? So I think it's just getting feedback and then molding it up and trying to formulate a way forward. I think we're all
absolutely. Who knows? It may be things may change again. Who knows? So.
Yeah. Oh, I hope we don't have the second wave. Ooh.
No, that's the issue. So yes, that's what we're working on. You may have seen we put it on our Facebook, in Twitter. I think I put it on, and it's been in the trade press and stuff as well.
I hope we find a way out. I think that is important at this point of time to see the direction we're all taking forward.
Because there'll be less traveling, and as we go forward, there'll be more of this online.
And I think it makes sense for New Zealand because it's quite far off from countries such as the UK, Europe. There's a lot more potential to be done online, even if it's not live, but recorded sessions. I think that's going to be so useful for countries such as New Zealand to reach out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's important that they can keep talking to their customers and keep educating, and the styles we have, and just ongoing communications really, and got to find the best means to do that. And people have distributors in China, Europe, US, Canada, all over the world, and it's about how to maintain that contact and still keep New Zealand top of mind. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, and this has been great to hear from you firsthand, and we're hoping to see a lot more producers and the momentum gathering up online to be able to connect with all of you. But thank you so much once again.
No problem. Well, look out for the 2020 vintage from New Zealand. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, we will.
Thanks. Okay.
I hope you have enjoyed watching this episode of Sumilier Talkies. To celebrate the completion of 10 episodes, I have partnered with Yealand Wines to give away 2 bottles of Sauvignon Blanc, and you could be one of the winners. All you have to do is to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Sumi Sarma and connect with me on Instagram at Sumilier Tasting, and to Yealands at Yealands. If you don't have Instagram, connect with me on Facebook page at Sumilier to receive fun wine updates, wine tips, wine recommendations on a budget, and wine travel tips that you can use for your trip post-lockdown. The only condition is that you have to be over 18 years of age, and at the moment we can only courier to UK mainland. So connect with me by 24th of June and I will announce the winner in my next episode. If you are already subscribing to my YouTube channel, send me a question and I will try my best to answer, and you can still receive the Yealands wine as a gift. Thank you so much for watching.